So earlier today, I was watching a short from JD Simo, who is amazing, by the way. If you don't watch JD's stuff, check it out. Anyway, JD was talking about doing like a wet-dry rig thing with his, for him, it's a Dumble and then this line-out box and a Headstrong Princeton. And it sounded amazing. And it caught my attention because JD, if you follow his stuff, he's kind of old school. And I like that. You know, guitar and amp, or guitar and a few pedals and an amp, or a couple amps, or whatever. But he's not like a fancy, rack rig or giant pedal board, MIDI. He's not that kind of player. So I'm watching this video and I got really inspired because it sounded amazing. So I started thinking through, what would it take for me to do something like that with the gear that I have? Now, I don't have a line-out box. Obviously, I don't have a Dumble. But I do have a PV Delta Blues that has a parallel effects loop. And I do have an old school Quilter Aviator that has an XLR out. So one thing about the parallel effects loop, and I don't know if it works like this on every amp with the parallel effects loop, but it works this way on my Delta Blues and on my PV Bandit. You can run the preamp out, the send, effects send, and nothing back into the return, and the amp will still play out the speaker. And the idea is because it's not series, it's not preamp, then effects loop, then power amp. It is preamp, dotted line, power amp with this, this parallel effects loop thing. So the idea is you can run into the Delta Blues. So right now I'm plugged straight in, and then out the preamp send, the effects send, that is going into my Quilter Aviator. No, even better. It's going, wow, Delta Blues straight in. Then, see, this is why I don't do this kind of thing very often. Delta Blues straight in, effects send, that's the preamp out, and that is going to my pedal board, which is a Boss TU2, a Lawler Overdrive, which I like because it has a 3-band EQ, and the Fishman AFX delay, which we've talked about, which is awesome. Goes out there into the front of the Quilter Aviator, and that is going through that amp, and then XLR out into my interface. The Aviator is not plugged into a cabinet. That's the beautiful thing about these Quilter amps, is you can use them as just a direct amp without anything going through the speaker, and it doesn't mess up the amp. So right now what you're hearing is the Delta Blues in the room. That's a mic in the room. And you're also hearing this Quilter Aviator blended in as a direct signal with cab sim with my pedals. So but one reason I like this is that you're able to do these, things like long delays, big reverb, and all this stuff, but it doesn't cloud up and mix up in your dry signal. So here it is. I'm going to hit the tuner to mute my pedal board, which will mute this. Here's just the PV. Now with the Quilter mixed in. Pretty cool. So if you have 2 amps, or an amp and then some kind of like amp sim, situation, and your amp has an effects loop that's parallel effects loop, not a series, then you could do this. You can run out the send into some stuff, and then through your other amp or your modeler or whatever, direct. Or if your amp has like a dedicated line out, you can do this. So this is a great example of being inspired by another player doing that other player's thing, doing their thing. And you bring that into your context. And the point is not to copy it note for note. The point is to take the general principle and then put it into your context, your guitar playing, your musical ideas, the gear that you already have, and come up with something cool. This isn't idea transference. It's not a finished product transference. There are times and places where we need to sit down and learn things, learn a song note for note, try to replicate a sound, just like it is on a record. There are times for that. But I would argue that there are even more times for taking an idea from somebody else and bringing that into your own brain, your own guitar playing hands, your own rig, in your own context, your own basement, and letting that idea from somebody else get into your life, your body, your rig, and produce something really cool. This is a beautiful thing, and if you don't practice doing this, I think you should. This is a big part of finding your own voice, because you're not copying someone. I think, in fact, the technical term is inspiration. And what ends up happening is something that's yours. So, happy idea transference inspiration. Please like and subscribe.